Even though it is harming us and bringing us suffering, nonetheless, we are addicted to this myth of being limited, separate, individual, independent, when we are anything but those things. Every breath we breathe links us to the planet that we're living on. That's not independent, that's dependent. Hi everybody, welcome to the Light Journal Podcast. I'm Jamie Perez. Today I want to talk about something that doesn't seem like it's an addiction, but the more you delve into it, it actually reveals itself to be an addiction. And that is how we think about ourselves and the world around us. Addiction often involves irrational or negative thought patterns that a person engages in to justify a way of life or things that they're doing that is harmful to themselves. And I can't think of a better way to describe what's going on with us as a society other than to recognize that we as a society and as individuals are addicted to a certain way of thinking about ourselves and about our society and about our world. This morning when I was meditating, Spirit showed me something that I really would like to share with you and get your thoughts on, okay? And I wrote it down, so I'm going to be sharing it with you. We are addicted, and we don't even realize it. We're addicted to a way of thinking about ourselves and the experiences outside of ourselves. We tend to see things in extremes. It's either this or it's that. We often don't recognize that in actuality, most cases, it's both. It's not an either or scenario, an either or situation at all, right? Everyone possesses wholeness, even if we express it more in one way than in another way. For example, we're both feminine and masculine. Now, we may express more as feminine than as masculine or more as masculine than feminine, but in truth, we are both things and or neither in actuality. We may also express as being young or old, but in fact, we're both. And science has also shown us that we are both living and dying at the exact same time. It's not you are living or you're dying, it's we're doing both at the same time. We are both an internal being and an external being. We're not either or, we're both those things at the exact same time. And we're also both instinct and reason at the same time. We're both conscious and unconscious. And I can keep on going on with this to show how it's not an either or, despite the fact that we often promote these ideas as either or. They're not. They're actually, in most cases, a both scenario, okay? Because we see things as either or, when we start applying language to things and start defining things as like good or bad, well, then we usually try to cling to one and eradicate the other. And yet our perception is both limited and unlimited. When we see things from the limited perspective, we're only seeing the tail of the cat and not the head or the body. When we see things from an unlimited perspective, then we see not only the whole cat, but everything around it and within it, and how the cat affects its environment and how the environment affects the cat. That's a very holistic view. But we're addicted to our limited view of the world and of life, because the less we see, the easier it becomes to think that we're in control of it, and to think that we're safe, or to think that there's less we need to protect. Okay? And because it makes us feel less threatened and more safe, we become addicted to this illusion of control, this illusion of being safe. We're so addicted to it that when anything threatens our small, narrow perspective of the world, so we put up even higher walls, even thicker walls, trying to keep out all these unknowns, all these unlimited aspects. And we do that by restricting where we go, who we interact with, what we eat, who we associate with, what we permit in our libraries, in our homes, in our businesses, in our little family circles. And we do that to keep the infinite or the unlimited out there, right? Because we're afraid of what we're going to find if we open up our minds and allow anything new and unfamiliar to be let in. We want to keep our little circle, our little piece of the world intact, and everything else outside of it, because we're afraid. One of the things you'll often find if you belong to any sort of a clique or a church or a religion is that there's always these walls that are built up around it. And anything outside the walls is portrayed as evil or dangerous or unsavory or unclean, any number of terms, because it's outside the wall that's been built up to make sure people stay in their little corner of the world, stay in their limited thinking pattern, right? Well, I had a time when I started opening up to beliefs and thoughts and perspectives that were outside of the religious circle that I was being caged in by. I remember that it scared me to even let myself listen to people who had contrary thought. And I actually remember being warned not even to listen to people who had all other belief systems, other religious systems. And one of the reasons they don't want you to listen to anybody else's viewpoints or perspectives or beliefs is because if you start listening to other people, what happens is you actually grow and expand, and you no longer want to be boxed into this limited, narrow worldview that society, religions, and whatnot use to control you. And you know what's interesting is that when you grow and you expand and you're no longer contained in this narrow, limited worldview or box, that you're often shunned from your group and they close ranks because they don't want anybody else to escape that limited or limiting worldview and perspective. So what is it that society and religions and other cliques, what is it that they fear? That we will recognize we are not limited, that we're actually unlimited and infinite in our potential and our awareness. And that being true, then our reality is also not fixed, but infinitely changeable and adaptable. Our society has actually conditioned us to think that we are limited. And they do that by blocking out contrary voices. They do that by conditioning us through the educational system and through peer pressure and through laws and rules and regulations and religions. These are all used as tools to condition us to think that we are less than what we actually are. And that's what helps keep us in this version of reality. We are perpetuating a myth, and that myth keeps us locked into this version of reality. We're addicted to that myth, even though it is harming us and bringing us suffering. Nonetheless, we are addicted to this myth of being limited, separate, individual, independent, when we are anything but those things. Every breath we breathe links us to the planet that we're living on. That's not independent, that's dependent. Okay? And every interaction that we have with others, with plants, with animals, with water, with fire, with materials, with work, it all connects us to others, to the planet, to all the things on the planet. We are not independent. We are very dependent. We are very connected. We are very linked together. This is how I can say with absolutely scientific authority here, we are not one thing or another. When you breathe in that air is coming from the world. That world is not separate from us. And we are not separate from the world. When we breathe out, that air goes back into the atmosphere, and it's used to help plants breathe. And then they're doing the respiration process, right? They're breathing and we breathe in their expiration. We breathe and they're breathing in our expiration. And it goes back and forth because we are intimately connected to one another, to this planet. We are not one thing or another. We are both the planet and ourselves. We are both the air we breathe and the one who breathes it. We are the water we drink and the one who drinks it. Whether we're in bodily form or outside of bodily form, we are energy, whether energy is solidified in this form or it's more in its natural, just vibrational state. We are an energy in either scenario. If we were to open up our understanding and our awareness and grasp our true nature as energy and form, then this reality would no longer define us. We would no longer see ourselves as separate, but as aspects of a unified awareness. Society itself is the trap that we step into when we take on this form. We are addicted to its definitions, its labels, its limitations. We're addicted to the experiences that this form and this reality provides us. But what's happening now is some of us are no longer satisfied with those limitations. Some of us want to move beyond these limitations and start living from a higher level of awareness of our unity, of our unlimited nature. But the problem is, like I said, it's an addiction. And anybody who's ever been around people who are addicted knows that over and over and over again, it seems like you take a step forward in the right direction, then you take 2 steps back. And it gets so frustrating. And it gets to the point where you just want to give up because it seems like you're not making any headway. And one of the reasons it's so difficult is because it's a societal trap. Everyone around us is locked into this same limited thinking pattern, the same perspective of us being limited, finite beings. And so when we attempt to step outside of what is considered the norm, then we start feeling the pressure to be pulled back, And it's so very hard to step out of sync with the rest of our society. And when we feel like we're so out of sync with the rest of society, what happens? We get pulled back over and over and over again. And what's really interesting about it is sometimes we're not even aware that we're being pulled back in it, because society has a lot of different ways to do the same thing, but with a different name, a different label, a different definition. The problem is we keep falling for the same trap. Every time we think we step out of one, we step right into another one. For example, when we switch from one religion to another religion, we think we're escaping a trap, but we're just falling into another one. Or if we are in abusive relationships and we leave one abusive person, we then step right into another abusive relationship. And that's kind of what it feels like, because society as a whole is that addiction that keeps pulling us back by luring us with different drugs of choice. It's really hard to leave the addictive thought patterns when we're stepping out of one societal limiting belief system and into another societal limiting belief system. We leave this church for that church, or this religion for that religion, or this clique for that clique, this nation for that nation, this government for that government. All of it's traps. They're all traps. They're limiting ways of thinking. But it doesn't feel that way because it's new and it's different and it's exciting, and it feels like this is going to truly be the thing that sets me free and allows me to expand the way I need to. And yes, it will give you some greater understanding of the societal addictions, but you're just exchanging one addiction for a different addiction. It's still limiting in its essence. And I don't know about you, but that really isn't enough for me, not anymore. I did that. I went from one church to another church to another church, ultimately moving into Messianic Judaism. And then in Messianic Judaism, I moved out of that into shamanism, and I moved from shamanism into New Age. And then I began to realize that I didn't need to define myself. But switching churches, switching religions, switching nations, switching cultures, that's going to provide you with excitement for a little while, but ultimately you're going to discover you're still in the same trap. Your feet are still locked into a limiting belief system, and you didn't really get a chance to grow at all. You just got a chance to shift your feet. But I think there's another way. I think there's a better way, and I am pursuing that better way, and I have a feeling a lot of you are also. And the thing is, I don't want to see just a tail of the cat. I don't want to see the head and tail of the cat. I want to see the cat and its environment and its innards and all of the things that are involved in the cat, because I want that more holistic, unified, systemic understanding of this reality, so that I can rise above it and not be caught into that limited view any longer. And I know part of it has to do with no longer categorizing and labeling and defining ourselves as I am this and you are that. I know that's part of it, but at the same time, that is how our language works. Our language works because we have shared definitions of things. And if we were to totally abandon all these definitions, then we wouldn't be able to use the language anymore. It'd just be gone, right? And I don't want language to be what cages me in. I don't want definitions to be what cages me in. But at the same time, I need language in order to communicate with other people, to communicate with you. And that requires shared definitions and shared terms so that we can understand one another and have a relationship with one another. If we can't eliminate definitions without sacrificing our ability to communicate with one another, how do we move beyond our limiting beliefs to a more unlimited and infinite one? And I think the key to that is to start removing all of our either ors from our vocabulary and from our worldview. We aren't either limited or unlimited. And the reason is we are eternal beings. So that's the unlimited part, right? But at the same time, not only are we unlimited and infinite, we are choosing to take on this solidified form that has a beginning and ending date. So that makes us also finite and limited. And it's in this limited, finite state that we have a chance to experience what cannot be experienced when we are in pure energetic form. We can experience limitations. And that takes us right back to the whole thing again. We're choosing to live and dwell in these physical, finite, limited forms so that we can experience what cannot be experienced when we're in the unlimited, infinite, energetic form. We're addicted to this reality and social constructs because we, in our infinite awareness, enjoy the play, the buzz, the high of being something we're not, even if it's just for a little while. Except what I'm seeing is that our interest in this reality, as an infinite and finite being, our interest in this timeline, in this reality, is beginning to wane. What I'm seeing is that we, as infinite and finite beings, are losing our interest in this particular version of reality. And as we lose our interest in this version of reality, its power over us, its addictive lure begins to wane. And the more it wanes, the more we're able to step out of that limited thinking and into a more inclusive awareness of who and what we are. As the power of this construct begins to weaken, we're able to break out of it more and more and remember the fullness of who and what we truly are. And part of that is because we're at a phase when we want to have a new human experience, maybe a new humanity, but something that is brand new for us. We want a different challenge, a different scenario, a different construct to experience. And that new version is the new world, the new earth. That is where we will be more aware of who and what we are and of our unity, so that we can experience reality in a different way. And it will once again be exciting. It will once again be a play that we're looking forward to interacting with. Because like I said, I believe that we as an infinite being have wearied of this particular version of reality, and we're ready to move into a new version, a higher version that is more unified and aware of the awareness that unifies us. We're at the point where we want to break free of the suffering and of the fear that has held us back for so long, and to experience the joys of this earth without those. And if you're feeling like you're ready to let go of this world and its version of reality, if you're feeling ready to let go of the fear of the comfortable and familiar and ready to move into a higher version of reality, well, all it requires you to do is let go, surrender, release your fears, release your requirements and your preconceptions. Release all the things that say this world is the only world. Let go of all the fears of what might be out there if we let go of this version of reality. Let go of those fears. We don't need those fears anymore. Let go of your addiction to fear and suffering. All it does is hurt us. We don't need that anymore. Let go of your feeling of being separate and isolated. You don't need that one anymore either. We've experienced it long enough. It's time to let it go. And as you let these things go, You're going to become more aware of the awareness. Release all those fears and all those beliefs and all those preconceptions. Just release them and open yourself up to the awareness that is always present and always available if you choose to tune into it. Invite that awareness into yourself. Tune out the world every day. Make time to tune out the world, at least for a little while, and sit in that awareness. You'll begin to experience the ringing in your ears. You'll start noticing the tingling and trembling in your muscles. You'll start having visions. You'll begin to have knowings where you just know something is true. And with time, you'll have that feeling of presence. That's where you have this sense of timelessness and unity with everything that is. These are all signs that you are moving out of the limitations of this reality and you are adapting yourself. You are allowing yourself to be adapted to a higher vibrational reality, to a reality that is no longer limited in its awareness and in its expansiveness. And in so doing, you're actually creating a new societal structure, one in which fear and suffering and isolations and feelings of being separate are no longer the norm. And that's how we change the world together. That's how we bring in the new world. Thanks for listening. I'm Jamie Perez with the Light Journal Podcast. Blessings on your journey, everyone.